There's a few brand new gaming news stories we need to talk about today, starting with the Sonic Central presentation that did indeed take place earlier this morning, a breakdown of what was at that event, and also some questioning around who is running Sega's marketing department. Then we also have to cover some brand new comments from the ESA directly around the future of E3 and whether or not it will be back in full force in 2023. Then the big talking point for today's video has to do with a very interesting first-party Nintendo Switch title that has not only leaked online, but is also in a state of flux, and we have to break down what this means for the Nintendo Switch 2022 games lineup going forward. What's up, Nation? If it's your first time on the channel, make sure you join Sunbro Nation by subscribing below, hit the like button on this video if you enjoy it today, and make sure you turn on your bell notification icon so you're kept up to date with all the newest gaming news. Now, as I mentioned, guys, we got a few different stories to discuss today, and we have to kick it off with that Sonic Central event that did indeed take place earlier this morning. This one for me was underwhelming through and through. I will start off with the one big highlight for it, which is that I am once again more hyped for Sonic Origins, as the trailer that they dropped today for that game definitely did the best job of highlighting all of the features and all of the new modes we can expect to launch when that title does hit later this month. And while it is a digital only release, and I also have gripes with how Sega is dividing the pricing tiers on the different DLC packs that are part of this game that shouldn't be there at all. It should be just a $30 or $40 base price and make it simple and direct and no confusion to the consumer, but instead they chose to do pre-order bonuses with certain portions of DLC and things. That's neither here nor there. I'm gonna pick it up day one. I'll definitely make a video on it here on the channel because I cannot wait to replay some of my all-time favorite classic 2D Sonic games in modern widescreen support and with various character support like Tails and Knuckles, and it's going to be a lot of fun for me. They even have mirror mode added in these games, and I just think there's going to be a lot of new fun gameplay experiences with these old classic Sonic titles to be had. Now from there, the presentation really fell off the rails for me because they didn't actually feature anything else that was new and exciting or something that we didn't know about before, with maybe you could argue some rough, cool new snippets of gameplay from Sonic Frontiers, but in all reality, this was mainly focused on the digital release of Sonic the Hedgehog the Movie 2, which by the way is a fantastic movie, and I did thoroughly enjoy that, but we're talking about a DVD release at this presentation. Then we transition to the Netflix Sonic Prime show, which may or may not be great also. However, it was a very brief snippet of the show to begin with, and it didn't do anything to build character other than it did, of course, reveal Shadow, which is like, yeah, that's very cool, but we had no dialogue and zero context for how the character is going to act and sound. And then, we just transitioned into a bunch of really minor announcements. Like, one thing that's kind of cool, I guess you could say, is Sonic has a action figure type of deal now that's actually a controller stand. I may look into that if it's cheap enough, but is this worthy of a mainline presentation where you hype up that there's going to be a Sonic Central event, and then we're talking about Roblox, we're talking about mobile Sonic games, and then there's really no show closer to speak of whatsoever? Like, yes, the snippet of Sonic Frontiers gameplay that they did show was probably more hype than most of what I've seen, because one thing that I'm going to say positive, even though there's been a lot of controversy online about Sonic Frontiers, I'm still holding out hope maybe when this game is finished and in our hands, it has a shot of being a very enjoyable 3D Sonic game that is step forward into a new world. That said, I'm very conflicted on it because of how it's been marketed so far, but one very cool thing that I did see in today's brief Sonic Central trailer was that portion of gameplay where there was something creating the road for Sonic. It looked like an enemy essentially, and I believe it was because Sonic attacked it later on, but he's running on this road that's being created in the world, and I can see some really cool gameplay potential to come from things like that, some really massive moments that they could create in Frontiers. And I'm not totally in the camp that this game is going to be a lost project. I just think that this all comes down to Sega not understanding how to market their products and put their best foot forward first. Maybe we will get the hype gameplay and experience trailers and some context trailers to what's going on in Sonic Frontiers, and having some reason to actually be intrigued by what kind of story and world they are creating. But so far, the way that they have just partnered with IGN with these 7-8 minute gameplay reveal snippets has been very discombobulated, and it's just been a silly way to lead with a AAA mainline series installment for Sonic. And you have to realize that Sonic is one of Sega's biggest money makers, if not the biggest moneymaker for them. So why are they messing up the marketing on this? If they took the Nintendo approach on how they market their games, I guarantee you people would be looking at this very differently than how they are so far with Sonic Frontiers. But we'll have to wait and see if Sega kind of pivots the marketing for this thing later on as we do get closer to release. It is a holiday 2022 title, so to be fair, they do still have time to address some of the criticisms that are appearing online, make the open world area more enticing, show us different types of landscape. other than just that first forest area? Are you gonna get really creative with the Sonic franchise this time around? And hopefully when this is all said and done, we are enjoying a quality mainline AAA Sonic game. All of that said, the Sonic Central that took place today, in my personal opinion, did not need to be its own standalone event, and they would have been better off just shadow dropping these different announcements on Twitter or make the big trailers part of Summer Game Fest instead. So for me, when you get a presentation like this that has the name Sonic Central to it, it just devalues that name Sonic Central even further, and I will set my expectations even lower for any future Sonic Centrals going forward. So this was not the hype event for me. I want to hear from you guys in the comments down below. What was the standout announcement out of this event for you, if anything? Were you hyped about the Sonic Origins gameplay trailer like I was? Do you agree with me and think that this shouldn't have been a standalone Sonic Central and that it just devalues that name even further? And what do you think of the state of Sonic Frontiers with all of the continued new hands-on gameplay that we are starting to see emerge from this title? So definitely share all your thoughts and feelings on all things Sonic Central, Sega and their marketing decisions, and your hype levels for the upcoming Sonic games in the comments down below. Now, the next story we're talking about today has to do with E3 and its potential return in 2023, as there's been some brand new comments from the ESA directly, who of course is the group behind organizing the E3 Expo, and it's had a very interesting history as of late, as of course due to the real world situation with the pandemic in 2020, E3 was entirely canceled for the first time in many years. It was then back in 2021 as a digital only event with no in-person section of the event, and I think you can definitely argue that in 2021 the presentation was far more disjointed than we've seen in the past, and a lot of people even say that E3 has slowly been declining year over year compared to what it used to be back in the day. And then of course in 2022 we started to get talks of first them canceling E3 and in the in-person capacity, and that portion of the event would no longer take place. We still expected some kind of digital showcase presentation to be organized like it was last year, and then to everyone's surprise, the ESA officially announced that in 2022 they would be canceling E3 entirely, which has a lot of talk online from people speculating that is E3 dead for good? Will they ever come back? Now, they did previously say that they intended to come back in 2023, but I don't think many people were taking that statement as fact up to this point, because we've seen them go back and forth on their stance on things in the past. And to get on the same page with exactly what the ESA has said today in terms of what their intentions are for the E3 Expo going forward in 2023, let's quickly hop over to VGC and read through their detailed typed up article together. E3 will be back in 2023, the ESA has reiterated. The show is scheduled to return in the form of an in-person and digital event. This year, for the second time in 3 years, E3 was canceled entirely, with the ESA blaming the ongoing health risks surrounding COVID-19 and potential impact on safety of exhibitors and attendees. The trade body, which represents the business and public affairs needs of the US video games industry, said in March that it was planning to bring back the show in 2023. And President Stanley Perry Lewis reiterated that message in a Washington Post interview published on Tuesday. We're excited about coming back in 2023 with both a digital and in-person event, he said. As much as we love these digital events and as much as they reach people and we want that global reach, we also know that there's a really strong desire for people to convene, to be able to connect in person and see each other and talk about what makes games great. With E3 2022 canceled, Jeff Keighley's Summer Game Fest 2022 will fill the gap with events, activities, and updates for fans from more than 30 partners scheduled for June. I think what's great about all this experimentation is that companies of all sizes are trying to figure out what works best to promote the product and the content that they are looking to share with consumers, Perry Lewis said. And I think there's a space for a physical show. I think there's an importance of having digital reach. Combining these two, I think there's a critical element of what we think E3 can provide. Well, you can definitely argue that E3 is by no means needed by these gaming companies anymore to communicate directly with their consumers. It's still something very nice to see put on. As a gamer that grew up looking forward to E3 every single summer, and you see all of the live in-person hype, it's an event that I would love to attend in person one day, and I have not been able to do that yet. So I personally am hyped to hear the announcement that it will be back in a big way in 2023 with a in-person and digital event. I think that is the sweet spot combination. I am just hopeful that things tighten up in terms of scheduling presentations and really making sure that each presentation has strong impact with the consumers, and only hold a presentation if it's necessary, and have a lot of really cool things built out on the show floor. Have the Nintendo Treehouse sections of gameplay where they deep dive into the upcoming games after a Nintendo Direct, then fans have an access to actually go play those games. Of course, the line management and thing will probably have to be addressed at some point, but it's still an exciting event for gamers at the end of the day, and it'll be very very interesting to see what does indeed happen with E3 long term, because if they do indeed come back in 2023, does everybody just re-partner up and realign? Is Xbox and Bethesda Showcase now a part of E3? Is Nintendo Direct now a part of E3 again? Or is it something that Summer Game Fest secures some of those showcases now and they become the more prevalent summertime presentation? Maybe Summer Game Fest starts leaning into an in-person plus digital event also, and then we have two competing summertime showcases. It'll be very interesting to see what happens with all this at the end of the day, but for me personally, I am all for E3 coming back in a big way if they can structure the event better and get back to those classic E3 days where you see the huge hype, brand new console reveals, AAA game reveals, and really have a large presence in person, but also extended online. So I want to hear from you guys in the comments down below whether or not you think E3 needs to come back at all. Do you think it's just a thing of the past and I'm just holding on to nostalgia and it really shouldn't be here anymore as an in-person event or a digital event? Or are you like me and you do look forward to E3 every year and you would be personally very happy to see it come back to its old classic self in 2023? So please share all your thoughts and feelings on all things E3 2023 in the comments down below. Now, the last story we're talking about today has to do with a very interesting unannounced first-party Nintendo Switch title that has indeed leaked online, but also has a lot of talk around it right now because it might be one of the first-party Nintendo games we've seen in quite some time that even Nintendo themselves are doubting is quality enough to even release, and there's even claims that it may damage their reputation if this game does hit the market. What are we talking about? The sequel, and the heavily rumored and talked about online dreaded sequel to 1-2 Switch. It's that long rumored game that we've heard numerous insiders reference and talk about, basically saying that there will be a casual game that nobody wanted released on the Nintendo Switch in 2022. It was originally thought that this game would be out earlier, but apparently there's been a lot of hiccups with the development. And while I am not a fan of the first 1-2 Switch, granted, I didn't give it much of a chance at all. It was just one of those games I feel like it sold because the Nintendo Switch was brand new and it had very limited software available at the time. And I think Nintendo saw some decent sales numbers from a very casual game and figured, well, let's go back into the Wii motion side of things and really build a game based around that. But for a lot of the core Switch fans out there, I don't feel like this one resonates very well with the broad audience at all. But to get on the same page with exactly why it's in the news today and what's been claimed around this title, let's quickly hop back to VGC and read through their detailed typed up article together. Unannounced Nintendo sequel Everybody's 1-2 Switch could reportedly support 100 players, but it's claimed the game has tested poorly with families with children. That's according to a new Fanbyte report citing multiple sources with knowledge of the product, which is called Everybody's 1-2 Switch. 1-2 Switch is a party game released in March 2017 as a launch title for Nintendo's latest console, which has gone on to sell almost 3.5 million copies. Rather than simply adding more mini-games for the sequel, it's claimed that Nintendo EPD Group 4 wanted to set the new game apart from its predecessor, which supported up to 2 players. It eventually settled on a direction inspired by Jackbox Games, the developers of the Jackbox Party Pack series, which includes a variety of games playable by large groups using phones, tablets, keyboards, or controllers. With the use of smartphones, Everybody's 1-2 Switch could have lobbies as big as 100 players, it's claimed. Minigames are set to include musical chairs, bingo, and a take on spin the bottle, which players have to compliment other people. However, feedback from playtesters was reportedly extremely negative, with families with children labeling the game as tedious. Some of Fanbyte sources claim Nintendo executives are committed to releasing Everybody's 1-2 Switch as $60 retail product and believe the game just needs further development, time, and testing, while other employees have raised the idea of releasing it as part of Nintendo Switch Online's expansion pack. So for me personally, I couldn't care less about a 1-2 Switch sequel, and while 100+ player online lobby sounds interesting, well, yes, you're going to use smartphones to do it. You'll probably use that Nintendo app that they keep trying to get you to use your voice chat through that nobody actually uses. You know, there's definitely some stuff Nintendo can overhaul on their online, but one interesting idea with this is, as opposed to potentially harming Nintendo's reputation with certain first-party releases and release this as a $60 game, I do think it is an interesting prospect to potentially just throw it on the expansion pack service, add further value for certain people who do want to play this game, and then maybe if they see success with that, it starts some kind of a trend where older Nintendo Switch releases that really aren't continuing to sell in a big way just get added into the expansion pack, and or smaller brand new one-off new Nintendo titles get added in there as well, because clearly that is a formula that works for both Sony and Microsoft, as they have games that get added into their ongoing paid subscription service, enticing more and more users to sign up. And while we have the classic old catalog catalog of Nintendo's library right now, we have 0 new current titles ever being talked about or added into the expansion pack, although you can argue that DLC is kind of them dipping their toe into the water with that formula. So this will be an interesting one to see how it unfolds. Clearly to me, 1-2 Switch and its sequel, whether it comes out or not, or the state of it, is not a big deal regardless. It is very interesting to talk about a first-party Nintendo title being so negatively reviewed from people who have played it that Nintendo's worried about their reputation around this, and that employees are actually fighting for this to be the first free brand new game drop into expansion pack. So I want to hear from you guys and your personal thoughts and opinions around this. Do you think we're getting this everybody's 1-2 Switch as a 2022 title? Do you think it gets scrapped altogether? Maybe it just needs more development time and we still see them stick to that $60 release? Or do you think Nintendo will actually toy with the idea of releasing this game as part of the expansion pack? And would you be a fan of certain older Switch titles making it into the expansion pack as well, so we have some more current titles to play, not just the classic catalog of games that we see today with NSO plus expansion pack? So regardless of your thoughts and feelings on everything we talked about today, I do want to hear from you all in the comments down below before you leave the video, as I do look forward to getting a back and forth conversation started with you all around these topics. Go watch yesterday's video next if you haven't already, where we discuss an interesting statement from Mr. Jeff Keighley himself around where fans should be putting their expectations for Summer Game Fest, and a conversation around brand new maintenance that was spotted online for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Also make sure you like, subscribe, turn on your notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next video.